So am I too young to have a baby? That's what today's discussion is going to be about, or monologue, should I say. I am so excited, and I wanted to put that there from the beginning. I'm very excited. I cannot wait to become a mum. I am so maternal at the moment and cannot stop thinking about babies and caring for a little tiny human being and growing as a mum, and I'm really excited for motherhood. But it's taken me a while to get here. When I found out that I was pregnant, I was scared, excited, nervous, anxious, worried, fearful. It's a huge amount of emotions to feel all at once, and I don't think that I'm alone. And I wanted to talk about this because I think it's really important for other mums or newly expected mums to understand that you're not alone, because I'm surrounded by other women who have always wanted children, and I've always wanted children, but knowing when that has always been a battle for me, especially as somebody who's always been very career driven. So I wanted to take time to really talk about and break down why you get this overwhelming feeling of I'm too young to have a baby. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, because you're actually thinking about the consequences of bringing a child into the world. So I've broken it down into 6 areas of discussion, which I am going to talk about. But I wanted to take you back to mid-September 2024, when I found out. I saw the red lines on the pregnancy test and just was so excited. But from that point, for about 4 months, my mental health was at a really, really low point. I had no control over my emotions. I felt extremely depressed. I couldn't do anything. Combination of fatigue and anxiety and probably prenatal depression. I completely disassociated from the world. I cut myself off from social media, cut myself off from friends. My relationship with Sam wasn't very strong. I wasn't treating him particularly well. And as a result, the first trimester wasn't an enjoyable time. And I can firmly state that I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the way that I felt. I didn't enjoy the worry about becoming a mum. And I think it all stems down to the fact that I was having to give up a career. I was having to give up on dreams that I was really, really excited about. I'd gone from being really ambitious to having all these ideas about running a business, running a tech startup, doing all these amazing things, achieving all these amazing things, to, oh shit, I'm going to have a baby, and I need to start thinking about that. Because everything I do, I put 100% into, and having a baby isn't something you can put 40% into or even 80%. You have to put like 110% into having a baby. Your baby then becomes your priority. Your needs and your dreams are not a priority. And accepting that isn't something that you can get over a night. You can't sleep on it and be like, yeah, I feel fine now. It's something that is basically a reconditioning of the way that you think and the way that you're approaching the next stage of your life. Transitional change is extremely hard, whether you're transitioning from a new job to a new lifestyle, to a new home, to a new country, to a new relationship. And maybe having a baby is the biggest transitional change that you'll ever experience in your whole entire life. I obviously haven't got to that stage yet, but I'm processing that stage at the moment and accepting that my life is going to change extremely dramatically from the end of May 2025. And just getting my head around that still is so complex. So one of the main reasons why I feel too young to have a baby is because I've always compared myself to other people my own age, which is such a toxic trait, and I don't know why I do it. I look at other people who are successful in their jobs and think, why can't I be achieving that level of success. And I start to look at other people who maybe not even working in my industry, but just like girls my age or even younger, and get this overwhelming sense of jealousy and feelings of lack of self-worth. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, I haven't had the right opportunities in life. I'm blaming a lot of things that are out of my control and basically reasoning them as to why I haven't achieved the level of success that I want. And this is where reflection gets really important. Reflecting on what you have achieved. And I am exceptionally terrible at reflecting. I own my own house, I own my own car, I have been running my own business for about 7 years, I have a beautiful dog, a beautiful husband, I had my dream wedding. Like, I've achieved so much in that time, but I'm just so ungrateful for it. And when I start to feel those feelings of lack of self-worth, lack of success, lack of achievement, it's not something I can just be like, oh yeah, but I've achieved all this. I do have to dig deep and really reflect. So one of my main areas of why I feel too young to have a baby is financial stability or financial instability. Now, I'm extremely lucky. I have been able to successfully run a business, create year-on-year revenue alongside my husband's career, who has a very successful career, and we've never had to want for anything. And as a result of that, we have been able to make these financial milestones. But when it comes to having a baby, it's a bit different because you don't really know what you have to pay for yet. You don't know that, okay, for example, a house, let's say you need to save 20 grand for your deposit, you know that's your goal. But with a baby, it's an endless number, and that can be really hard to balance. Luckily, I am not super worried about financial stability, just because of the way that I grew up. I came from a low-income background. I know what it looks like to not have money. I know what it feels like to not have money and to have to say no to things just because you can't afford them. However, my husband is a bit different and his experience is different. So his worries then filter down to me, and I'm like, maybe I should be worried. Maybe we aren't as financially stable as I thought. And I think this is one of the key areas of having children is having children are expensive, but I don't think they have to be. I think you can live a very minimalistic life. There are children out there who are extremely happy, who are extremely well loved and grow up with hardly anything. So although financial stability is something that has crossed our minds, it's not something that we're super worried about. And I'm so grateful for that. The next one, which is more relevant to me, is emotional readiness. Going back to what I said before, I didn't feel emotionally ready. And one of the big elements of this is, am I too selfish to have a baby and be a mum? I always prioritize myself. Yes, I'm married and I sometimes prioritize Sam, but I know as a fact that I'm not great at being selfless. And as a result, that's the thing that's always stopped me from having a baby until I got that overwhelming urge of, gosh, I really want to be a mum. And that's when we started to try. We never expected to become pregnant or as pregnant as quickly as we did. And as a result, I think the transitional period, because it was so fast from wanting to have a baby to being pregnant, is a huge emotional shock on the system, in which you go through all of these things where, like, am I good enough to be a mum? What if I'm a rubbish mum? What if I'm not like wise enough to look after a child yet? What if I have this baby and I regret it? Or what if I have the baby and I just can't cope? You see a lot of mums out there who not necessarily can't cope, but their emotional stability is so unsettled that they aren't able to be the mum that they want to be. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to experience that. And I get so worried about that. So being worried about emotional stability definitely links in to whether I am too young to have a baby, because I'm 28. I am a big believer in having a baby in later life. My mum had her last baby at 45. You know, like, I've seen what that looks like. I know it's possible. I know you can successfully and safely have children later on, and you don't have to be in your 20s. Although society pushes that on you, and clinically it's advised, it's not always the case. Every human being and every woman is different. And then we move on to like my career and my educational goals. Like, that's completely disrupted by becoming pregnant. And I am so scared. Linking back to that anxiety about becoming pregnant, having those dreams, having those goals, everything you wanted to achieve in life kind of disappear because your priorities change. My priority is no longer my career. My priority is now becoming a mum and being the best mum that I can be. And sometimes you think, like, I'm only in the first quarter of my life, and what if I've had this baby too early? What if I'm meant to do more before I have a baby? So kind of links back to that emotional readiness and the career and educational goals, in which, you know, physically, if you want more children, the earlier you start, the better. But at the same time, as a young person, we're so emotionally unstable and we don't really understand the world fully. And I don't think we're emotionally developed until we're like in our late 30s, or until not everybody's the same, but like for me, I'm still learning and growing so much, and I'm so much better at accepting life and, what's the word? Experiencing change better the older I get. Whereas when you're younger, I feel like we're a lot more fiery, we're a lot more ambitious, we have this much smaller perception of the world, and you focus on these career goals of doing these things and achieving these set things, which is what you've been conditioned to do from school. So maybe even just from this age of 5 years old, many of us are told, like, we go to school, we get an education, then we leave, and then we get our dream job. And that's literally what education's about. You study so you can do what you can do and make money. And although I don't necessarily agree with that whole concept, that's what society expects of you. So to then still be in your 20s and then think, oh God, like, my whole life up until this point in time has been my career, is now changing. How? Like, what am I supposed to do next? And you go into this panic. And then we've got our social pressure and social expectations. And although I'm a big believer in not going along the stream of social expectation and social norms, and I like to push back on that, I also cannot neglect the fact that I have been conditioned to think and behave in a certain way and believe certain things. You know, by the time I'm 30, I want to achieve this. And that is a societal pressure that has been put onto us. For example, Forbes 30 under 30. What a ridiculous concept. You know, like, yes, it's great that you've achieved something so young, but why do we have to base it all around age? The way the world is designed is to promote achievement super quickly and super fast, and that means achieving it at a young age, and the younger you are, the more impressive it is. And I just don't think that, like, why? Like, what is the benefit of that? It's so detrimental to people's mindsets, because it makes people feel worthless if they get to their 30s and they don't feel like they've achieved anything, or they haven't been able to succeed in something that they wanted to before the age of 30. And then it keeps happening. When you turn 40, you dread that you turn 40. When you turn 50, it's a bit of a midlife crisis because you're like, oh God, I'm 50 and I haven't done everything that I've wanted to do. And this is just the way that society expects us to think, which affects the way that we think we should have children and when we should have children and what that looks like and what a traditional family looks like. And I guess the biggest thing for me is the judgment of others, because working and running a business is tough and you build this image of yourself, and to turn around and say, I'm giving it up to be a mum is scary because I'm scared of judgment and I hate being judged. I wish I could be one of those people that just didn't care what other people think, but unfortunately I do care what other people think of me, and that can be extremely impactful on my mental health. I'm very lucky to have Sam's family because they are very family orientated and want to be very active, proactive with helping with grandchildren, and they've made that extremely clear. Whereas my family is still really young. I've still got lots of young siblings that are still at school, still at education, still figuring out their own lives. My parents are still parents, like full-time parents where they've got under 18s living in their house that they have to provide for. So they've never had a break from being parents and then going to becoming grandparents. They're going from parents to being grandparents at the same time. And it's not fair for me to expect them to be able to just drop everything and think like now you have to look after my children, because they didn't sign up for that. I signed up for that. And as much as I would love for them to be active and engaged, I also want them to have their own life and not feel like they have to participate in everything that we do. We will see how it goes when the baby comes. But additionally, we don't live near my parents. They live in London and I live in Kent, and the M25 is a bugger because although it should only take an hour and 15 minutes to get from here to there or there to here, it can take 2.5 hours. So it's not always accessible for my parents to be around and my family to be around. But hopefully as we start to age and grow, it gets easier. And then finally, impact on my marriage. Now, my mum said a really great thing, which is a bit of an eye-opener. And she said, having a baby is like throwing a grenade on your marriage. All you have to care about is yourself and your partner. And that all changes when you start to think about a baby, because my priorities will now move away from Sam and onto my baby, not intentionally and not to neglect him, but that's just the way it is. And that can really affect his perception of me, and I'm super aware of that. Already, I've seen the impact that being pregnant has had on our marriage because I've been a much more difficult person to be around. I know that my behaviour isn't always as lovely as I would like it to be. Luckily, he's very tolerable, and I really am grateful for him. It's going to make me cry. So it has been really hard to accept that our lives are going to change and there's going to be this beautiful little baby that is going to change our world. But that pressure and that struggle of change makes such a difference to your relationship. Me and Sam have been together for nearly 10 years and we're extremely happy and we love each other so much. And I like to say that we have a Disney relationship. It's a dream relationship, something that you hear about in fairy tales and that you see on Disney. And I am really scared about what a baby is going to have, or the impact that a baby is going to have on our marriage. So So that's something that's really scary, and we're still I'm in my 20s, he's in his early 30s, you know, like there's so much we could do just together, just me and him, like travel the world together, mainly travel the world together, but it's not going to be like that anymore. It's not going to just be us two, and it has been just us two for the last 10 years. It's going to be sniffly, all snotty mess. It's going to be the three of us to start with, and we're so excited. Like, we both really want children, and we're so excited is just such an unsatisfying word, because it's more than that. It's more than being excited, but we totally acknowledge the difference and the impact that's going to have on our marriage, and hopefully we're able to maintain a positive, loving, happy relationship without me becoming an absolute nightmare, because the majority of the time I'm the problem, and I totally understand that, and I totally acknowledge that, although I won't say that to his face, and in a fight I'm always right. But yeah, hopefully he doesn't watch this. Yeah, and I think that's it.